Hello and welcome to today's video. My name is Damien, and today I'm going to talk about copyright, FCC regulations, and other such things. That sounds so boring, right? Nobody cares about laws, regulations, right? Well, people here, I would have to say we all should sit down and talk about this, as certain companies throw their weight around when it comes to these things. YouTube, I'm looking at you. Before we get into it, though, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment, and turn on notifications, and all that kind of stuff, if you enjoy this video and my content. Okay, let's get serious though. Okay, why should you care about these things? Isn't the point kind of old, silly, moot, pointless? No, my dear viewers, it is not. As big corporations with giant pockets get to do things we cannot, and or blame their users for those very things while letting the violations of these things and areas continue, because it's really not something that they have to do in their minds or should even care about, as they only care about it in a couple of ways. The first and obvious one is when their automatic algorithm flags a video for breaking said rules, laws, policies, etc. And yes, I said it that way on purpose. Second is when it comes to their company's content. And third is when it affects their pocketbooks. Also, like if it draws enough attention, etc. So, why should you care? Because their influence is beginning to spread into areas that are gray, that we need to consider. Is this legal, enforceable? Is this something they should have that control over, or something else should have control or right to judge it? Honestly, as far as that, well, we'll get there eventually. This is changing what we are able to see and hear on all kinds of platforms, such as Discord or, other ones. Well, the reason I can't think of any others is because I'm going to specifically talk about what happened with Discord, and it's going to be the main issue I address with my opinion, because in my eyes it passes beyond the gray into a very wrong place. So I'm going to have to explain some things and whatnot first, and then talk a little bit about the stuff that happened. And then, my opinion is going to be mixed throughout this whole thing. Obviously, that's what I do here. So, as I said, I need to start first by explaining laws, regulations, and other such things, and then point out my perspective opinion. So, a simple explanation of these things, so we don't get too into the hard areas and keep it easy to understand, is going to be what I give us here. Copyright basically is when an entity, meaning company, persons, etc., hold the rights to something. An example of this is Mickey Mouse, whose likeness, image, and voice are all copyrighted and held by Disney. Even though his specific situation is a little bit different than most copyrights, it's what I'm using to explain copyrights, okay? Typically, after so many years of not renewing your copyright or creating something new using the rights to it, it becomes public domain. An example of something that became public domain is Sherlock Holmes, which is a public domain character that anybody can have within their story or write a story about. Now, a common warning that involves copyright that most people know of is the FBI warning at the beginning of films about piracy, as piracy involves breaking copyright. However, let's not get fooled. If you own a movie, you are allowed to preserve your copy by making a copy as long as you don't distribute it or sell it or oddly show it to a whole bunch of people at the same time. Don't know why that last one's there, but whatever. I guess it hurts their pocketbooks. I don't know. Saying that, one could argue that YouTube is breaking this by sharing content with lots of people. However, their situation is unique, and this content that they deal with is typically posted by the creators and or a licensed distributor of the content. However, I will say that YouTube is quite aware that its site has been in the past and still is being used by pirates to exchange or distribute video or audio. It's very popular to do that on YouTube. However, since they are just a host and have rules, people, policies, and bots policing their site, they have worded things in such a way legally that they are not accountable for when the laws and regulations are broken on their site. Mainly because of what I just spoke about. All the users post the stuff. YouTube themselves typically don't unless it's their own channel or whatever. Anyway, let's go. Regulations are also something I have to define. Although it's kind of weird and complex. But, we'll try and keep it simple. So we'll use the Federal Communications Commission, or FCC, defines themselves as regulating interstate and international communications by radio, television, wire, satellite, or cable. And or cable. What is apparent to me is that the gray area known as the internet isn't mentioned there. And as the internet continues to grow and mature, large companies, people, and other such interested parties have begun disputing over what should and should not be allowed. This is important as currently there aren't too many regulations or laws in place as far as the internet goes yet. And as cases get brought before judges and law officials and whatnot, the laws and regulations when it comes to the internet will become less gray. In the meantime, this becomes everyone's problem to deal with. So, one other thing. The regulations that get decided upon by places like Congress, we just wait as the laws, regulations, and other things evolve. I mean, there's nothing we can really do other than enforce those laws when they become into act, or punish people for doing things that no one really looked at before. So we're in a weird time as far as the rules and regulations and all that are concerned due to the World Wide Web. But at the same point, we're in a different whole kind of thing because, COVID caused a lot of people to be on the internet that weren't, readily on it all the time because they couldn't go to their jobs, etc. But anyways, that's not what we're here to talk about. It's just, we sit in the dark waiting for these things to be decided. Currently, the Enforcement Bureau, yes, that's their name, or EB, is the enforcer for those laws and regulations, etc. So simply, the FCC is the USA's organization that decides things involving media. Hence why this whole thing's important. If we are to look at history in ages, this age could be considered the internet age or the digital age or something similar, as most things are becoming internet friendly or using the internet in some way, especially since COVID, because we're forced to communicate differently than we're used to. At least you are. I'm used to this. And I'm not assuming that viewers aren't used to this. There are probably some that are, so please, whatever, let's get on with it. Anyway, things are becoming more internet friendly and or using the internet in some way. Just like the Age of Steel or the Age of Stone, and we haven't exactly worked out how things get decided upon and or are protected and or are enforced. As far as the internet goes, it's still developing and it involves the entire world, which obviously there's going to be some disputes over how things should be handled and what things are allowed. Give it time, we will find ways for it to work. Where we start to have problems is when companies try to muscle in on things or jump the gun on things. For this, I will use the example of YouTube versus Discord. If you've been living under a rock for years, like me, YouTube is a corporation owned by Google that services the internet by allowing entities to upload and share media in the form of videos and or audio. I'm sure you see just by that sentence that we're already in sticky water due to both regulations and copyright, because there is very little that they can do to prevent an upload of something that violates either, but rather reinforce the laws and regulations by taking down, or as they call it, striking down, a channel or video that violates these regulations, laws, or policies, or whatever. Well, why would this matter? No worries. We're getting to that issue soon. But the thing here is, that's all on their own side. All that stuff I'm talking about, they can do that stuff on their own side. That's fine. It's sometimes what it takes to get things under control. The important thing to know about YouTube is that it is a place where it is encouraged to share, like, and subscribe to channels and videos in order to, in a way, not just share what you like with others, but let it be known that so many people enjoy it. As YouTube was built upon sharing media, you would think that the FCC and other such places would have some ground, which I'm sure is happening more lately, but you should know that it wasn't being enforced, even though it was being shared and advertised as a sharing media site. Discord is a social networking site or application for desktop, cellular, and web browsers. Yay! Discord also has things called bots, which I mentioned YouTube has their bots, their algorithm bots, their copyright bots, etc. Discord bots are automated programs that execute commands input by users of Discord in a channel for a multitude of reasons and requests. One important thing when discussing this in detail is that certain bots could play audio or video in a voice or video channel. When a user input called for or used the bot, it would search and play what they they wanted. A very popular thing, actually. Such bots were used to search and play YouTube videos as well, and or audio from them. And that's just, it was cool. There are still some that work, but we're getting to the whole problem here. So the sticky water we find ourselves in is both because unless you own the copyrights and post the media yourself, like I or other YouTubers do, a copyright could violate by anyone on the site, right? No, actually, wrong.
I would also have to do this if it was not considered able to be used on videos or whatever without annotation of said source. For example, the music in the background of this video does not require that I put in my deep description with their link, their name, their this, their that, because they rightfully allow people to use it without crediting them, which is great.
But the positive side is that YouTube's supposed to be watching my back, so if I find somebody using my stuff and I didn't approve them to, they'll take them down as well. So, supposed to have my back. At the same time, probably not. Whatever. Heck, I know that there are constantly channels that use other people's content without permission. They have existed from the dawn of YouTube time, and in no way will they ever go away, as you can just keep making new channels and email addresses and getting new IPs to make channels for, with, etc. Also, sharing media is a sticky thing, as both it has been built upon doing so much that audio and video pirates frequently use YouTube to spread or get their desired things off of. Another situation that's sticky is the regulations and enforcement of such regulations are just in their infancy. And places like YouTube have begun to try and enforce things themselves and decide rules on media themselves. They aren't a legal thing like Congress or the FCC or whatever. It's so much of a joke that I've created like ESRB ratings stickers for videos before. It's a freaking joke. It's internet is just not, unless it comes to some serious events, it's not all that much to find legal. Where I agree, there needs to be things in place to protect creators, and I can say with ease, YouTube has the rights to dictate what is allowed on its platform, which is YouTube.com. I'm not gonna get at you, YouTube, for the shit that you pull. And you need to admit that you pull shit because it's BS. Then you need to fix it. But whatever. I also find myself a bit shocked when they go and shut down bots that are sharing video and audio content on Discord.
From YouTube and other such sites.
When YouTube was built on sharing, this is purely only getting the video more views, and this is purely, in my opinion, a tactic for them to have more control over media, as they aren't being paid by Discord to allow their stuff to be shared on Discord. That's where I'm going to guess their problem lies, because they're money hungry. But anyway, that's just my opinion. But when you look at things the way that they are, it becomes alarming. And if they built themselves by allowing people to share media and and other things on multiple websites such as Facebook, etc. And people are getting paid by YouTube for things like that. And yes, even big-time people, why take down bots on Discord that are free advertising for those things? I mean, it's not piracy unless the person uploaded something they don't own the right for. It's becoming more defined in the regulations as we adapt to this new era that the entire world is involved in. And yeah, this allows a bit of flexibility for places that share things, but I doubt you'll see them banning their links on Facebook or other social sites like Twitter. Frankly, I think they just want to see what they can get away with, because they are one of the biggest companies founded in the internet and sharing through it. So, I'll leave you with my opinion as it was above. This is wrong of YouTube to shut down bots that were sharing media from YouTube. I also leave you with the fact, yes, proven fact, that even if it was piracy, it would earn more money than it would lose from being so, as what does one do when they are shown or hear something or experience something that they like? They go out and get it or do it most of the time, and they pay for it as well. So here you have it. Everything's on the board here that I could think of. Decide for yourself what you think. And again, if you like my content, please help me by liking, subscribing, commenting, turning on notifications, because it's really appreciated if you do. So I hope to see you next time when I rant again, and I hope you have a pleasant day. Thanks for watching.